Present.
Excellent, thank you. And myself, Commissioner Diamond, I'm present. And Commissioner Lakshmanan?
Present.
Excellent. Thank you. So we have Quander, Mitnick, Diamond, and Lakshmanan. Let me make sure. Did I miss anyone? Because that is 3 of us. Okay. Guess that is it. So that means that there are 1, 2, 3 confirmed commissioners present. And I believe that is quorum, as Commissioner Daly is on an approved leave. Is that correct? From that, yes. Wonderful. So although we would normally start on public comment at 6:05, we can start that now. So some of the rules for public comment: each person delivering public comment will have 1 to 2 minutes of speaking time, and that depends on the number of people that have signed up to be public participants. The total of this public comment time will not exceed 16 minutes, and public comment will not be entertained outside of this time, which is dedicated to public comment. So Commissioner Quander, do we have individuals who signed up for public comment?
We do have one person that's in person who signed up. If there's anyone on the call who would like to speak at this time, please raise your hand and we'll go ahead and get you on our list here to speak.
Hi, my name is Jacob Carton. I'm on a phone call. How do I raise my hand?
That works just fine.
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in attendance that would like to speak? I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Dr. Howard. Okay. And anyone else? All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Our first individual is Megan Murphy. Megan, when you're ready, go ahead and speak. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, where should I sit? Should I sit over there where they can see me? Can you see me or just hear me?
We can hear you. It's
I
whatever.
can hear you.
Okay, is this being video recorded?
It is not at this time that I'm aware.
Okay. Okay, I'll just speak from here. Can I have 2 minutes, please?
Yes, you have 2 minutes. The
Okay.
timer is on the screen here.
Okay, I'll start now. I've contacted the city attorney and I've come here to the Human Rights Commission and called because I am being heavily stalked. And it is done the greatest beneficial to reach out to the community, although I am told by the city attorney and by the Human Rights Commission that there's nothing you can do because these stalkers have a lot of wealth and a lot of power and are illegally surveillancing me and following me and sexually harassing me from a distance and using me as a subject of gossip, that by telling the community at a grassroots level so that the community can spread the word that their behavior is unacceptable, illegal, and causing me great stress. I am on disability for an anxiety disorder, and I am also a member of the 12-step recovery community. And as you can tell, I am very angry because they have abused their wealth and power to hire third parties to follow me and stalk me. I was a nanny for the Waite family, founders of Gateway Computers in 1999. They were worth $8 billion at the time. His name was turned in as a client of Jeffrey Epstein a few years ago. In 1999, I declined for them to pay for my graduate school, a new car, family vacations and cruises, because I felt extremely uncomfortable around them because they told me family secrets. I did not think that would come back to haunt me. Evidently, it has come back greatly, as if I'm in this weird computer cult of people, or just Epstein circle of wealthy people that follow that story and therefore follow me. I'm also an activist. I get a lot of unwanted like comments, and I'm a fine artist from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, which motivates people to stalk me illegally. And I demand it stops. I lost custody of my son for going to the police in 2011, asking only for a list of domestic violence shelters so I could receive counseling for the intense stress that comes with people with a lot of wealth and power stalking. And I was called crazy and my rights were terminated after only 90 days. And I haven't seen my son in 12 years because of the behaviors of these sick people abusing their power. And I hope the community hears me loud and clear, because I feel a great wealth of medicine and normal people who would not do such a thing to a woman on disability, an NAA, and an artist and an activist for the left, for the quote unquote left, and I call nonviolent. And I appreciate any members of the community spreading the word that if anyone is doing this to me, they are to stop at once and be held accountable by as many people as possible until they are forced out. Because there's no
I'm sorry,
special
time is elapsed. My apologies, time is elapsed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next person we have on our list is Jacob. And since you can't
Hi.
know when your 2 minutes are up, but go ahead and start.
Thank you. It's been 9 months since the Seattle Human Rights Commission voted overwhelmingly to take up amicus status with the Seattle Federal Consent Decree regarding policing. This is an issue that I was very pleased to see the Seattle Human Rights Commission begin addressing. It was a very hopeful sign that those abused by police might finally have a voice in front of the federal court, a voice that we haven't gotten from any entity in Seattle government, whether it be the mayor, the city council, or even the Community Police Commission. I'm hoping that the Seattle Human Rights Commission can finally take action today and not be bullied by threats from the city, and actually put into motion an amicus brief to the federal court that is overseeing policing in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Howard J. Gale, please start whenever you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good evening, Howard Gale with SeattleStop.org. I am the person who brought the amicus proposal to the Commission in 2021, and it's currently still on the Commission's non-functioning criminal justice reform task force. 1 year ago today, the Seattle police chased a naked Latinx man in severe mental health distress with a snarling, aggressive canine, and then, after less than 2 minutes, released the dog to attack the man's naked crotch and then shoot him to death. Seattle City Council, the police, and the entire police accountability system have spent the last year ensuring, even if only by turning a blind eye, that a man robbed of his life was also robbed of his humanity and dignity by leaving him unnamed and unremembered for the last year. The Community Police Commission has stood by in silence over this brutal police murder. Just yesterday, at yesterday's public meeting, publicly and obscenely trying to justify their lack of concern or engagement by falsely claiming they are doing so out of respect to the man's family. This is obscene gaslighting and sophistry. I ask this commission not to be part of this conspiracy of silence and avoidance. The man killed last year, who remains unnamed, just like Derek Hayden the year before, Terry Kaver killed 6 days before George Floyd, Ryan Smith, Danny Rodriguez killed the year before that, and so many others, were people in mental health distress who were deemed by our accountability system to be lawful and justified murders. Please, publicly discuss and vote on resuming the cause of amicus to give these people some small voice. And if not a measure of justice, let them be remembered and spoken of. Thank you.
Thank you for that. At this time, we still have time for public comment. If there's anyone additional on the call who would like to speak, please raise your hand. Or if there's anyone in person, please raise your hand as well. And I'm not seeing anyone. One last call. Okay, we can go ahead and move forward. And just for the record, I do see that Chloe has joined the meeting, and the time is 6:13 p.m.
Thank you, Commissioner Condor.
It also looks like Matthew has his hand raised.
Oh. Yes, Matthew. Yes, Commissioner Mitnick.
Yeah, thank you. At this time, I'd like to amend the agenda, and I just wanted to ask the chair if now would be the appropriate time.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitnick. I believe that we should discuss any amendments during new business. So at that time, if you would make that motion so that we can continue with the agenda. So during new business, because it looks like fortunately we're on time if we can continue in this manner.
So just one quick thing that I guess I'm not seeing where I guess I see where new business is. I just wanted
Yes.
to reference per Robert's rules and our bylaws, Article 3, Item 9, we technically do need to approve the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thanks.
I believe we'd already approved the agenda through our correspondence that we had, as we had, I believe, over 48 hours, or we had several hours or several days in which to review the agenda. I'd like to continue this matter during the new business portion so that we can ensure that we're meeting the agenda that we had already agreed on.
Okay, if we can do it over new business, that's perfect. Yeah, I never voted to confirm it over email, so I just would like that in the minutes. Thanks.
Thank you. So next we will move to approving the November and the December minutes. Oh, and at this time, public comment is closed. So as we'll note that that includes, of course, our chat function. So that has been closed now. In terms of the minutes, everyone, I believe, has had an opportunity to review the minutes that were distributed. However, there were some updates that were sent. Personally, I know I'll be abstaining from approving the minutes only because of the chat issue. The chat should have been part of the public record in both, particularly because there were some, I would say, challenging or disturbing comments that were made that needed to be part of the public record. So I don't know, would anyone move to either approve, or I would like to motion to have the minutes approved at the next meeting when we have an opportunity to review them along with the chat transcript.
This is Commissioner Quander. I did not see those suggested amendments or the added chat for the November minutes or December. So I'm personally okay with tabling November minutes. It did sound like maybe December would be okay. And I'm definitely open to making a motion. So I'll go ahead. I, Commissioner Quander, am motioning to table the November minutes until our next meeting in February.
Seconded.
And so, seconded, so, oh, right, because that's,
People.
I keep forgetting that there are 5 of us, so 3. So yes, okay, thank you.
Are you
That's-
in favor? I'm sorry, was that in favor?
Yes, I'm also in favor.
Okay, so that passes. And then I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the December minutes.
And my only opposition to that is that the chat transcript was not included and sent out to everyone. And considering the statements that were made in the chat, I believe that that's an integral part. And so we should table that until February.
Okay, so I'd like to amend my motion then to table the approval of the December minutes until the February meeting.
Second.
And also, I also motion to approve that. So moved. Thank you very much. And that brings us, great, wonderful on time, in terms of our checking in with our committees, subcommittee updates. First, does the appeals group have a report out for us? I'll move then to Human Rights and Planning Committee. What that is that call-in user number 2?
Yeah, if you could mute yourself, please.
Okay, no report from there. Is there a report from the ad hoc committee on the bylaws and policy? No. And is there a report out from the development in terms of the elections protocol?
We do not have any updates at this time.
Thank you. And in terms of the ad hoc committee tasked with the retreat planning, I'm on that committee, and at the moment we are, I believe, confirming the facilitator will be available in terms of their availability. Of course, that date is on February 4th, and now I am seeking out alternates in the event that they are not able to serve. Okay, that then brings us wonderful to old business. Commissioner Mitnick, hand this over to you.
Yes, and I'll drop a link in the chat for the opposition to sweeps legislation for folks and members of the public. Oh wait, is the chat available right now? Or okay.
It's not available now, but you can share if you select share at the top of your screen.
Okay, yeah, cool. Let me do that 1 second. Okay, all right, can everyone see my screen? Perfect, great. So yeah, really happy to be discussing this legislation today. Over the past month, I've had the opportunity to get feedback from some folks from other commissions, as well as over email from commissioners on the Human Rights Commission, and I try to reflect everything the best I could. Most of it is actually the same as when we saw it last month. I will say any clause that had any changes, even if it was just one word, I put in red so you can see. And just for the sake of time, I'll read out the changes and you can see them visually here. So noticeable change, this is sponsored if we approve this by the entire commission, and we're framing Mayor Harrell's encampment sweeps as targeted evictions of our most vulnerable neighbors from public spaces. You can see later down the line, just mentioning about in our past budget, the Unified Care Team was funded. The details of that are included here. Overall, it was around $38 million. Then the language about halfway on the screen cites the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in 2019. I think that's a typo. Sorry about that. Ruled that the Eighth Amendment precludes the enforcement of a statute prohibiting sleeping outside against homeless individuals with no access to alternative shelter. That is direct text from the ruling. And as you can see, the United States Supreme Court denied an appeal of this decision, which affirmed the lower court's ruling as good law. As such, the city of Seattle is not offering shelter and has not offered shelter to house even a conservative estimate of our city's unhoused residents. And race, being disabled, LGBTQ, people who've experienced domestic violence, immigrants, and refugees are all protected classes in Seattle, and these groups are overrepresented in our city's population of unhoused. And Black, Native American, and Alaska Native community members are 5 times overrepresented among those who are unhoused as well. And a large population are also young people who are, as a result, put at greater risk of poor academic performance, dropping out of school, and experiencing homelessness as adults. And those items were included in this version of the legislation to show the gravity of the situation, and especially as, you know, being under the Office of Civil Rights and having to hear appeals regarding discrimination cases for engaging in protected activities. This is directly under sort of the purview we have as a Human Rights Commission, which is why that was included. And the language below that was edited to share how, again, these sweeps are targeting our most vulnerable neighbors, many of whom are members of protected classes. Their homes are being demolished, personal property destroyed, and equivalent accommodations are not being provided. I have personally been at a number of sweeps, and I've seen firsthand SPD, SDOT staff, Seattle Public Utility staff even are not doing what they're saying they're doing, and they're not offering alternative shelter at all. And as you can see here, the limited shelter spaces that are available also do not provide unrestricted access or the resources that are needed by many groups, which again is in violation of that Ninth Circuit Court decision. Therefore, the city is actually in legal violation here, and the Harrell administration's continued practice of sweeps is going against also a Supreme Court ruling. And this, again, is relevant to us in our work because they're using local and federal taxpayer funds to execute these targeted actions that are violating constitutionally protected rights. And also, it is worth mentioning in the highest possible terms that these sweeps are taking place on stolen ancestral lands that belong to the Coast Salish and Duwamish peoples. In the therefore be it resolved clauses, looking at the action items coming out of this legislation, the language was adjusted to demand that the City Council revisit all the budgetary line items that contribute to sweeps and removing all funding for them immediately. And as a result, we are demanding alternatively that these dollars are being allocated to provide sanitation facilities, waste collection for encampments, parks, and all public spaces. And we're calling on the city to provide sanitation, waste collection, and safe parking spaces, waste collection, and safe parking for RVs, all services that they should be delivering that they are not, because they're wasting money on a solution that does nothing but perpetuates more harm. So as a result, we're demanding that the current conditions, folks who are doing what they can to be survived are not going to be targeted for eviction. And there needs to be sufficient housing and the availability of resources necessary. That needs to be proven, and it's not. And we're condemning all the departments that take place in participating in this. And we're committing in the strongest possible terms to oppose these items. And then the end, we would request a meeting with the mayor and city council to understand the purpose of the budget allocation to the unified care team. They need to give an explanation to us because they clearly have not done that to the public. And, I see my role as a commissioner as being a conduit to the community. And, we all are community members doing this for free. So it's the least they can do. And these are public meetings, so the public should be invited as well. And I think to be able to participate in a conversation with these people because they're clearly not doing it. But maybe that's another thing we can do. And then also, we would consider potential legal action moving forward. Just as a result of the violation of the Ninth Circuit Court and Supreme Court rulings. So yeah, those are all the changes. If there's anyone here who would like a copy of this, I'm hoping it can be linked on our website and that city staff can put this on the Human Rights Commission page so members of the public have full access to this. Feel free to just email me at commissionermatthewminnick@gmail.com and I'll send you a direct copy of this. Thanks.
Thank you. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions or like to discuss the document as well?
I don't have any questions about it. I think that this is the right way to go. Obviously, this has been brought back to us quite a few times now, and I think we're in a good position here to take some action. So I will be voting in favor if a motion is made.
My only question was in terms of the services that we are suggesting the mayor or that are provided instead of sweeps as an alternative. I noted that we're bringing like sanitation. We're suggesting that they have sanitation and such. Is there something compelling them more to providing housing versus providing facilities where they are? As well as noting the impacts of gentrification in terms of creating the situation where two groups in particular are disparately impacted.
Yeah, that's a really good point you bring up. I don't think this is precluding that. I think gentrification or housing crisis are two causes for the folks who are being unhoused. Who I personally talk to and know, and I think that's another issue we should take up. And if there's suggested language. I think we could definitely add that in here, but I also think that could be even a separate item of legislation because I see this as directly opposing the violence that is happening on our streets right now and saying we need to provide some short-term services and supports to those on the ground, as well as supporting mutual aid efforts. I think is really important, but we definitely need to build more housing. Gentrification is a huge problem. I'm totally with you on that, and I think maybe we could even talk about this at the retreat, and it would be something with the Renters Commission too. We could talk about, and I know that the Disability Commission, some members on that commission I've spoken to, we've talked a lot about accessibility in housing and how a lot of those who are experiencing homelessness are disabled as a result of our housing not even being accessible. So I think that's something we could take up, and I'd love maybe even if we could have a meeting with some of the other commissions too and do joint legislation on that. We could have a really strong statement on housing in those respects. But yeah, totally open to what others think, but I guess that's my first impression.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And so I guess I will place the call. If there are no additional questions, clarifications, I'll place the call out if anyone would like to make a motion at this time. I can do that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the legislation.
Okay. Anyone like to second?
I'll second.
Okay, I think that's all we need. Okay, I believe that is what quorum, right? So thank you. Motion passes.
Okay. I can't hear your vote.
Oh my goodness. Okay, it must be I should have used this this microphone instead. I'll speak louder then. Okay, so motion passes, so moves, and yeah, I like the idea of also reaching out to the other commissions as well in case we either will update it or collaboratively work on a resolution as well. Okay, thank you. Next, that unfortunately brings us to dignified public infrastructure resolution. Would you like to enlighten us on that, Commissioner Mitnick?
Definitely, thanks. Based on conversations I had last month with Commissioner Bennett, I feel like I will be motioning to table this to our retreat. I feel like just a lot has happened because that was very much framed around the budget. So I think it's certainly a really important issue that we could take up on the retreat. And I'd also like to invite other members of some of the other commissions to that conversation as well. I feel like they would have a lot to add. And I think that would be a good item for the retreat, and we can maybe even weave that into the work plan. So yeah, I'll be making a formal motion to table that until the retreat.
Seconded.
Okay, and I'll also, so moved. Thank you. And if you're interested in being part of that retreat planning commission, please get in touch with me as well. Thank you. That brings us to new business, and we're doing we're working on time, right on time, so we have additional time as well. So let's move through these points. First, for a short review of the Seattle Ethics Code, and I will share this because it will lead partially into the second portion of this. Share content. And I don't know if you can see this. So
Full screen.
oh,
There we go.
yeah,
Yep.
it's on full screen now. Here, one second. Hopefully you can see this now. So this is just a quick review of the Seattle Ethics Code, and I'll be very short because the Seattle Ethics Code also applies to not only city employees, but also to members of boards and commission. Of course, we're the Human Rights Commission, And there are two areas that I just wanted to quickly review. And one is 4.16070, which is regarding what prohibited conduct in terms of improper use of our official positions and disclosure of confidential information. So again, because this ethics code also applies to the commission, just to be aware of sharing or disclosing confidential information. And in particular, the area of 4.16075, that's about prohibited conduct after leaving the city. So even after leaving the commission, just to be aware of some of the items that are included there. So, it's really important in terms of ensuring that we have transparency, of course, but sharing information that may have been confidential once you've left the commission. You have to just be mindful of the information that you're sharing, as well as, I would say, any contacts that you would potentially utilize in your either personal or professional endeavors or in your businesses. So just to be aware of that, because I know that we're all volunteers and we're all doing this, to advance human rights in the city, not to either advance personal or professional endeavors. Which then leads me to want to discuss the former commissioner's resignation letter. I know that I've only been a member of the commission since late summer, early fall, and it seems at some points that members of the public or people that call in have more information on the resignation letter than even I may have been privy to. I understand that there were some inaccuracies that were communicated in the letter, and I just wanted to address those because I know that oftentimes I've been presented with, and other commissioners as well have been presented with information in the letter that we weren't aware of and did not sign off on. So I don't know if there's anyone that can offer any information on that, or because as a committee, we're working as a team together to advance human rights, but I had some confusion in some areas that I would like cleared up. And also it's important for the public to know what was accurate and inaccurate, or exactly what our stance was. Stop sharing this.
Okay, I was going to say, is there a copy of the letter that we're looking at, or what is our intention here?
Well, several, I guess it was 3 meetings ago, 3 or 2, probably 3 meetings ago, we I understand that we had email correspondence regarding this letter. It was published in the media, in several media sources, as well as our emails were published in the media. And as a new commissioner, I had no idea what was going on in terms of who was resigning and the manner in which they resigned or the reasons why. So I know when I checked in, I don't know if Meredith, are you still here? If you could, because I know that you said that you had some information pertaining to it.
Do you on a specific portion of the letter, or which part are you?
Well, then maybe we should table this then for the retreat, because I know I'm the only person on that agenda point that's present, and my questions were, more about which aspects were accurate or were inaccurate, but as well as the fact that media sources had this letter before even other members of the commission, so we didn't really know what was going on. And I don't know who E is.
I'm so sorry. Hi. I
Hi.
am Ezra. I
Oh,
just
hi,
kind of got
Ezra.
into it.
I saw it was E.
Yes, I need to change that. But I'm Ezra, and I'm apologize for coming in late. But I think from my understanding and from my conversations and from reading it on, it's just a lack of support from the community for us as a commission, or for the commissioners to be able to kind of like voice their concerns and not being able to get the resources that they were supposed to get, and just not being like myself being confirmed on time. It was just all over the place, and it's just there was no. I mean, I kind of understand why a lot of people were frustrated, but I think that there's not a lot of changes that are going on, and losing a lot of people now was kind of like unfair. But I mean, not unfair, but it was a hard timing because we need people, and we lost a lot of people. And the transitioning was hard, and COVID really hit a lot of people in a really difficult times. And as a person who is still unconfirmed myself, I am frustrated myself, being that my timing is as being appointed, and the time that I have been with the commission is on a time crunch, and I want to be able to pursue my position, but I can't if the council or the mayor is not going to confirm me and partake into the commission, and not being able to get emails or secured lines of communication and some sort of support with the community. It's hard to feel valued in the commission without people speaking and communicating, and the transparency is just not there.
I completely understand that frustration, and I'm a little shocked that you aren't confirmed yet, because I believe you were a member before I became a member. So to even know about this background, so I will definitely need to follow up on that. Commissioner Mitnick?
Yeah, just on this topic, I wanted to share first with regards to the letter. I stand by everything that is stated in that letter, and a lot of the intimidation and hostile behavior from the city I have personally seen and now witnessed myself as a commissioner over the past several months. So yeah, and I remember when the letter was released and commissioners resigned, Meredith held various listening sessions that commissioners could go to, and this is not a reflection of how I feel about city staff personally or whatnot, but I felt like there was no accountability about the behavior that took place specifically from the city. And that's also why I'm going to be objecting to the executive session that will be happening later tonight, because time and time again, when we're actually trying to create change or do anything meaningful on this commission, these bullying tactics from the city, and there's folks in the city's attorney's office who are on this call right now, and I hope you're listening loud and clear, because very fruitful discussion to have later, in my opinion. But it's unacceptable how commissioners are being treated. And I just wanted to reference what Commissioner Alem just brought up, that there's folks who are not even being confirmed, even though they're being appointed and they're going through the channels. And it's very clear that the city is either trying to intimidate or draw out these processes for a very long time, which is unacceptable, and it's actually violating the charter. So yeah, I have a lot to say on this, which I'll get into later, but just on the topic of the resignation letter, I stand by everything behind that and totally understand why folks are resigning. And we've even had another resignation since our last meeting, and it's very clear that this is an intentional effort, in my opinion, for the city to dilute our work.
Okay, thank you. As I said, I was not a part of the history, and wanted to know more about why we're in this situation. And I think several other people weren't as well. So thank you for that. But I'll move that we table this for the retreat in terms of having the letter available. It was just a surprise to me to find out more in the media than with the people that I'm working alongside. So thank you very much. So let's now move to
I'm sorry, was that, were you making a motion to table?
yes, I was.
Okay.
Table it until the next.
Just a clarification on that. Just something specific that we are requesting from staff to bring, or are we just each going through the letter again and discussing it, or again?
I would like to know what is accurate, because as I'm understanding, if we're standing by everything that's in the letter, if I'm standing by something, I need to make sure something's factually accurate, particularly if I was not there. And if something that's accurate has been, transmitted to the community for a full transparency, and we definitely need to take action on those things, but I need to make sure, I mean, as a commissioner, I would like to know that I'm standing by something that's 100% accurate based on what happened versus based on an interpretation of what happened. Particularly if it's being signed on behalf of, and I don't, when you read through like the ethics codes and everything, if it's after a commissioner has left the commission, they still have a responsibility to behave in a certain manner. So I just want to make sure, and then we can, move forward in terms of doing something to address it. But as I said, this is something that then I'll put forward for the next agenda then, because there are two key players that aren't present right now. I don't know who is. E?
I do want to ask one quick question though, because according to the bylaws that we do have, is that a chair and a co-chair has to be offered, and we don't have one at all, and one of them
Right.
left. So we're supposed to have a meeting before the 7th, since the 12th is going to be the 30th day mark when we're supposed to have a person to move up to a co-chair or a chair member. Are we going to do that?
That is actually because right now I'm facilitating the meeting, so as well as Brianna is a facilitator as well. That's something that we will need to address, and I don't know if I should hand this over to Meredith. Is this something that you could address? Only because Marta is not here. In terms
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so the decision, I believe, by confirmed commissioners was to wait until the retreat to vote on new co-chairs. You need an appeals chair, and then you can have up to 3 co-chairs, I believe, as it states in your bylaws. So a total of 4 is possible. So that's, I believe that's what you all agreed to do at the February 4th retreat.
Yes, I see the emails that we sent while we were developing the agenda that was mentioned. Thank you. And Commissioner Mitnick?
Yeah, thank you. I don't, I understand, Commissioner Diamond, kind of where you're coming from with, wanting to understand more parts of the letter. I just personally am I'm going to vote no on bringing this up at the retreat. Just for me personally, I believe and stand by everything the letter myself, and I don't feel like it warrants any further discussion in terms of determining if it's accurate or not, but I would be open to participating in a discussion about actions we can take on the letter. But I just want to say all that to say, even though I'm voting no, I understand kind of where you're coming from, but I'll be voting no.
Okay, well, just then for full transparency, because I have some ethical concerns in terms of the Seattle City Ethics Code, I would prefer for it to be discussed, with my fellow commissioners. But, if there's something that's inaccurate, and I believe that based on the inaccuracy, that's a violation of the Ethics Code, then that's something that I would take up elsewhere. However, I would prefer to pursue the matter here. Commissioner Quander?
Yes, I have a question. Are we able to submit our questions to staff, or for example, like Meredith, I don't know if you'd help with this or not, and they can report back to us with clarification to the questions that we have, and we could still discuss maybe like our future actions that we may want to look into, like Matthew said. But at least that way, at least for me, I'll have a better understanding of what is going on here, because it seems like the same conversation over and over, but then the questions, but then are we gonna have more questions when we get to the retreat, but we're not actually prepared to have those answers. So just trying to think about how we can make this process a little bit easier or a little clearer.
Right. And Meredith, did you hear that question?
Yes, yeah.
Need me to repeat?
Okay.
No. I'm happy to, if you wanted to write questions to me, I'm happy to answer them that way.
if you all want to meet as a group to discuss this. I mean, whatever way that you all feel best to address some of this stuff. I think that there's some real valid concerns, and I'm happy to talk about what we're doing to improve our processes and to address some of the things that came up in that letter. So yeah, anytime, whether you want to reach out to me individually, as a group, through a letter, email, whatever you'd like to do.
That's wonderful. Oh, Commissioner Quander?
Yeah, so with that, would commissioners be interested then in not necessarily tabling this discussion, but adding to our retreat as an agenda item to just review the answers that we got if we need to?
I think that would be a wonderful idea, discussing it there once we have the answers. Correct. Is that something I guess I will motion, I agree to bring that to I should just say Commissioner Ezra. Yes.
As Alum, but I know that this might not be something that I probably should ask now, but the part of the conversation that I saw from the bylaws is that appointing anyone from the community, but to do anything in a sense of like task force or an agendas, but is there any way for expedition or appointing such as myself to participate in conversations that you guys have as a non-official commissioner? So I still can. Sorry.
Oh no, go on. I'm sorry. That is a good.
I think I can address.
Expedite it.
I think I can address the question. So as far Commissioner Allen, you're asking about what your kind of scope is as an unconfirmed commissioner, I believe. You can participate. You can be on subcommittees. You cannot. The two things that you can't vote and you can't be in a leadership position until you're confirmed. I do hope you get confirmed. I reached out to City Council yesterday. I haven't heard back, but I'm hoping it's this month. So I'll definitely keep you posted as soon as I hear, because you have 3 commissioners actually that need to be confirmed. So I'll keep you posted. Hopefully I'll hear back by tomorrow. But yeah, so you can participate. You can participate in discussions. If there's any privileged discussions, such as the executive session, you cannot participate in that as an unconfirmed member. But yeah, if you wanted to be on work groups, if you want to participate in any other way, you're absolutely welcome.
Okay. Commissioner Litnick?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to second what the previous commissioner was just stating with regards to confirmations. And maybe Meredith, if kind of on top of what you were saying, could you also share with us at some point why it takes so long for these confirmations to happen? Because it's severely limiting our ability to do our work, and especially if commissioners are waiting a long time. And the last thing I wanted to mention, and I don't want to take up too much time, so I apologize. With regards to the ethics code, what specifically in chapter 4.16 will we be reviewing?
4.16.075 prohibited conduct after leaving the city. So that would mean after stepping down from a commission, what activities you should not be participating in. And I believe one is for a period of 1 year, and another is a period for 2 years. Even in terms of continued continued influence on the current commission once you've stepped down. And again, this is also something I'm just making or helping people be aware of it, only because of the fact that I think sometimes, and even myself, sometimes you tend to just look at our bylaws and not think that the ethics code also applies to us, but it specifically also applies to commissioners. And that's why the wording, even on the website, commissioners, it also applies to us. And it's something that when we were onboarded, that we also, attested that we understood that we were going to apply as well. And yes, Commissioner Mitnick.
Yeah, this is really helpful. Thanks. I guess I have another question. So if there are, hypothetically speaking, commissioners or former commissioners who are in violation of the ethics code, what exactly would be a course of action that would then happen if they indeed did violate the ethics code, since they're no longer on the commission? Like what actions would be taken?
It further in that code, it states specific actions that could be taken against them. And let me pull it up. Complaints. Yeah, there would be what in well, they could have what a hearing, investigation, and then their acts on violation. The steps that could be taken against them are in 4.16.100. But that, of course, isn't something that we would decide. That would be something for the city's like ethics and elections commission. So something for them to determine. Yes, Commissioner Mitnick.
Thank you. So those actions that the city attorney's office would take, does that include potential legal action?
Let me see here.
Yeah, this is super helpful. I don't have this in front of me, so thank you.
Violation. Well, I see monetary fine. They could recommend prosecution or other remedies. So yeah, it could be prosecution, monetary fines, other recommendations. Recommending for censure. Well, that's if you're already on. Each violation constitutes a separate, but I think mostly if they stepped off, it looks like there's either some sort of fine or prosecution, and for other things, there's recommendations, or they could remove you or censure you. Commissioner Quander.
Yes, so I think it would be good to go over the ethics here that we're discussing, and also some of the inaccuracies or questions that we have. I do have concerns though, if our conversation that we have would anyway influence or affect any, I guess thought of action against previous commissioners. That's something I'm really not comfortable with at all. So I would just really would want to know that the discussion we have is going to be completely outside of whatever the city might want to do, and that, they're not taking into account on this. Meredith, are you able to provide any info on that, or that can be something I can write down and send and we can have back later?
And I'll just interrupt quickly. And that's why I said that I would prefer that something like this we discuss as a team and as a commission versus, going and because obviously, despite discomfort with things, if something's unethical, it's unethical. And as a commissioner, we'd have a responsibility to address something that's unethical. However, definitely in these gray areas would be best to discuss as a team. And I'll hand it to you, Meredith. Sorry.
This you can raise specific concerns. If you have specific concerns, we can raise this to ethics and elections and get advice from them. So I'm not actually very familiar with what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, anytime I have a question related, even remotely to ethics, I reach out to staff over there so they can help us figure out what next steps maybe, if anything.
Thank you. And I'll have Commissioner Mitnick speak, but unfortunately, we are not open for public comment now, Dr. Gale. So Commissioner Mitnick.
Yes, I just want to share I'm deeply disturbed with any possible legal action, prosecution, fines being levied on community members who aren't even part of the commission anymore. I think to me seems like a strong First Amendment violation and represents, once again, the same intimidation tactics that the city attorney's office has been participating in for the past 8 to 9 months already. And will create a culture of fear amongst not only commissioners on this body, but other bodies, in that if you participate in actions or vote a specific way that is not the liking of those currently in power, there's consequences. And I'll share more on this later, but I just really want to share my concerns with this conversation. And I don't feel like it's our role as a commission to even be discussing potential actions against members of our community who aren't even on the commission. I think it's, one thing to be said if someone's on the commission. I think that's valid concern. I think it's a worthy conversation, but on people who aren't even here or, members of the commission is deeply disturbing to me. And I just want to call the question on this item to vote on if we're moving it to the retreat or not.
For me, I'm deeply disturbed if there's unethical behavior because, irrespective of the fact that we're public servants, you can't behave in an unethical manner. If you're doing something that leads to, for example, violating confidentiality, that leads to personal harm to another commissioner, I find that equally disturbing, particularly if you agree to serve the public and you're doing something unethical, like creating a business opportunity out of the context that those things that are unethical that we agree to, that we are not going to do. We're as good as our word. So I can understand the apprehension, but holding people accountable to doing the right thing isn't the same as intimidation tactics. If they're doing something that is wrong, that needs to be addressed. That's just my feeling, but it's, I just wanted the reminder for those of us that are here now. But I'm the sort of person, if something is unethical and I'm standing by and I'm watching it, just as if something is inequitable and I'm standing by, I have to say, so that's my duty to the public. But I think, we still have, I'd like to move to the update, because if this is going to be an agenda item, then just as we always, confirm and review our agenda items before the actual meeting, I'm more than happy to move this to a discussion point on the agenda for the retreat.
Commissioner Mitnick did call the question. So if he wants to go ahead and actually make a motion,
Okay.
this.
Yes, Commissioner Mitnick?
Yeah, I will. I just really quickly want to say I totally understand what you're saying, and I think there have been behaviors that the city needs to address, and that I actually want us to. And I think I mentioned in an email. I think we need to take up. Unless a commissioner has specifically done that behavior, I just worry. Like I don't want to. Yes, if they sent a letter that caused a chain of reactions, if they're not the ones who participated in the behavior that happened after, that's just what I'm concerned about, holding them liable for something they didn't do. But I do want to have like a discussion about the threatening behavior and the threats that have been received to this commission, and I don't want my vote to preclude that. So I don't know if that would be included in this or a separate item. So I guess now I'm sorry if I'm confusing. I want us to discuss like that threatening behavior. It's just the part about holding former commissioners liable unless they were the ones who actually did a threat or something that led to that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Right, I understand. And given I guess this does dovetail into that because, we do have a little bit of time there, but that was one of the reasons in terms of not confirming the minutes for the November and December meeting. There were threatening comments made, unfortunately, by some individuals in the chat last time, as well as I know myself, as well as another commissioner had threatening phone calls just based on a perception of how we may or may not have voted on an issue. that were disturbing. And yeah, and I know that probably, or I hope that was not the intent of the parties, but yeah, not every means justifies what you are doing. So because of that fact, and because of the threats to life and property that were made against other commissioners, of which I'm included, yeah, that's what's concerning in terms of the ethics violations that may have potentially led to that situation. I don't know if anyone else would like to, any of the other commissioners would like to make a statement in terms of that or the threats that were made. Commissioner Allen?
I guess my only thing that I'm trying to make sense out of this is like, what kind of examples do you see as unethical? Whereas if a commissioner or ex-commissioner had an issue and want to speak up about their experience versus doing something that's kind of like what, sharing confidential information, I would understand those two differences. But like, is speaking about their experience considered like a violation of it?
Oh, I think when you read 416.75, it's not about speaking about your experience, it's about the actions that you take afterwards. Because unfortunately, for example, if someone's off the commission and they've resigned and yet they're still holding meetings with commissioners, writing policy that they suggested the commissioner submit, if they're still like, although they're de facto not on the commission, but they're still, I would say, controlling the commission or communicating misinformation to the public. Those kinds of things. And that's, again, not something for us to determine if that's ethical behavior, but that would be, whoever is evaluating that against the ethics code to determine.
Makes sense. I guess with the clarification, is it like using the platform and like using the platform as the commissioner, or kind of like intimidation or like blackmailing or such sorts of like that kind of category?
That kind of thing. Yes.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's happened, but if someone were to, like, for example, they were part of the commission and they decided, well, I'm just going to release every document that was ever made. And even though I'm not on this commission anymore, I'm going to share it with other places. I'm going to modify it. I'm going to create my own, that kind of thing. That would be, yeah, that would not be in either their best interest or ethical to do something like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the clarification.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And that leads to someone receiving threatening calls, someone, being injured, those kinds of things, professionally or physically, personally. Commissioner Mitnick.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I've expressed my concern regarding the death threat that was received to the city, and at least as far as I can tell from as a commissioner on this body, they've done absolutely nothing. And I think this conversation needs to be directed to the city doing an investigation about the death threats and the threatening behavior you mentioned. Like, I am very personally concerned about that. And, just thinking about that is, something that, keeps me up at night and whatnot. But I think I again, I don't think it's our role to police former commissioners' behaviors unless they are the ones who specifically did the death threat or are participating in the threatening behavior. I feel like their actions after they're on the commission is their prerogative. That is not our role to determine, is my personal belief. And I think that I'm going to be making a motion right now that we have an item on the retreat about the threatening behavior and the death threat and how the city is dealing with that. And because I feel like they're doing nothing, they're remaining silent on it and almost making it seem like we as commissioners are the ones who are having to determine the course of action on that. Again, that's how I personally feel. I don't want to speak for the commission. Others may feel differently, but I think I would like to redirect this conversation and have an agenda item specifically about the threatening behavior and just leave other commissioners who've left completely out of the equation. Once again, unless they're the ones who did the threat. As far as I know, they haven't. But if they want to have meetings with community members, discuss their time on the commission, that's their right as residents and neighbors and community members. And I don't want to be part of any conversations that is attempting to police that or get the city attorney involved in that. But again, that is my stance, and I'm making a formal motion now to just have a discussion on the item I mentioned. Thanks.
I'll second that.
And I would like that as an agenda item because, yeah, so I'll also move to support that. Strictly because, I mean, just for clarification for everyone, I filed a police report. So if there's this impression that, oh, well, we're just not doing anything, those of us that were threatened, we filed reports. I mean, I'm not a police officer, but okay. All right. So I guess that means 3 of us, then motion passes. So we'll place that on the the next agenda. And I can now move to Commissioner Ella.
This is kind of like one of the reasons of that letter, the resignation talked about a secured line of communication. But like in the retreat, and we can hold off on this conversation later, but could this have a conversation of having or demanding for more protection or from security sense of from the city or the council to have a work email so that somebody's still monitoring them rather than having the commissions to handle it on their own terms or feel unsupported if some people feel unsupported where somebody else has already seen it and can handle it as quickly and effectively as
Right. Yes. Seattle or emails for us would be nice versus Gmail as well, so that they're secure as well. Thank you. And now Meredith for the Seattle Office of Civil Rights update.
Yeah, thank you. So everything I have to bring up actually is in the next item under the announcements. So if it's okay with you, I will just jump right to the next thing.
Okay, thank you.
So the first thing is an item I'm hoping you can vote on, and that is that you do still have your February 2nd monthly evening meeting scheduled. You also have your retreat 2 days later on February 4th. So the question is, do you want to keep your meeting on the 2nd as well as the retreat on the 4th, or do you want to cancel out the 2nd? If you do want to cancel, then that would be a vote, but just wanted to bring that up.
Let's see. And Commissioner Mitnick?
Yeah, I just wanted to voice my support for keeping our meeting, just because as I mentioned the last meeting, and maybe this is, again, a conversation for later, but I think we need to have a full meeting dedicated specifically to the amicus brief. So at the very least, I think it would be pertinent to keep that February meeting on the docket.
I'm thinking that because it's literally 2 days later, I would like to cancel the February 2nd meeting and put our efforts and time, as well as the longer agenda, into the February 4th meeting. We'll be there pretty much the entire day, so 9 to 4. In respecting that, I know that we're all volunteers and public servants, that ensuring that the meeting of the 4th, the retreat, occurs. And Commissioner Quander?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how I would vote on this if a motion is made. I would like to know, say that a motion passed for us to have the meeting still on the 2nd. Meredith, are we able to go back and host a vote to end up canceling that? It's just hard to say because I don't know what the agenda is for the retreat yet. So I'm not sure how much time we're going to have to dedicate to this or anything really. So that's why I'm not really sure where I stand on this yet. But do you know procedurally, Meredith, how that would work if we did vote to have it, but then we ended up wanting to cancel it? Or if we cancel it and something comes up and we decide that we do want to have it?
So the only piece of that is that you cannot vote over email or anything like that. So the vote would be, we'd have to put a special meeting on the calendar. So you could make that vote, and that vote would have to be in a public setting. So if you don't decide now, and you'd have to decide somewhere between now and 5 days before the 4th or the 2nd.
Okay. Is there a time? I know you're kind of working on this by yourself, Trisha, and I want to help retreat. But are you kind of thinking of like a timeline of when you might have the agenda hopefully done by?
It's all dependent upon the facilitator as soon as I find out about that, but I would have it no later than Monday. But what I do have based on our email discussions, and something that Meredith just said led me to think of something else, but that we're going to have our elections during the or discuss or prepare for the elections during the retreat. So, and when you just said that we can't vote over email, Meredith, so that means that we can never vote to approve the agenda over email? Because I know that was something that Matthew noted, or Commissioner Mitnick noted earlier, that he didn't approve the agenda, but it's something that we don't vote on the agenda that we're sending the emails for. It's for not for nothing, but it's just like advice.
Typically, the commission does not, like the full commission does not vote on the agenda prior to the meeting. So that's what the co-chairs ideally is to have that meeting. Usually with MARTA, they go through the items and create the agenda. And then they have the ability to then okay that agenda.
Thank you. Okay, so it's not something we vote on. Okay. Commissioner Ellen?
Hi, sorry. If you guys do need some extra hand on the retreat, I definitely want to participate so I can still understand what's going on and do something at least instead of just listening.
Thank you. I will definitely reach out to you. Thank you.
Sorry, Commissioner Diamond, I can also help out.
Oh, great. Oh, hi. You're here too. Hi. I'm sorry. I didn't even notice it. Thank you very much. Between the four of us, we'll definitely have this. Oh, you had another one. You had still up, Commissioner.
Unconfirmed person, I would also be willing to help. Just to kind of reiterate what Ezra was saying, yes, it would be great to actually do something and feel like I'm.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. And I saw. Oh, that's from the public. Okay. So I would like to move that we cancel. No, I can't do that. I'm the facilitator. I'll wait. Any other comments from the commissioners? Questions? Okay. And thank you for, there are now 5 of us working on the retreat. So thank you very much for that. I'm reaching out to you right after this meeting. Okay, so Commissioner.
I was gonna say, how open are other commissioners to having a special meeting for 5 minutes to hold a vote on keeping or ending up canceling the meeting? Are people willing to do that, or not so much, or?
Let's see here. I know, well, wants to, I don't know if this is in response to answering this because Ezra hand was up first and then Mitnick, so Commissioner Ali.
Oh, no worries. It's a separate conversation. So they asked, so I'll ask next.
Okay. Commissioner Mitnick?
Yeah, I just my internet went out briefly, so I didn't quite catch the full question. But if it's about a special meeting, that's something I'm still in support of. So
Okay. Okay,
Anyone else have any thoughts on if they'd be willing to do a special meeting for like 10 minutes?
I mean, personally, I just feel as if the retreat is going to be so intensive. And of course, there is a public aspect of the retreat, so we would still be able to hold aspects of the meeting then. That's my concern is that 2 days later, it seems, oh gosh, I'm trying to think in English and not Dutch. It seems as if our time and effort would be better suited towards ensuring that the retreat on the 4th includes everything. Hands. Commissioner Mitnick, did you raise your hand again, or?
yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
sorry for my internet issues. I feel like I have an understanding of what we're actually discussing. So yes, I am motioning to have a special meeting on February 2nd dedicated specifically to us filing an amicus brief.
Just a point of clarification, does it need to be an actual special meeting? It can still be a regular meeting, correct?
Yeah, your meeting is scheduled, so it's not, you don't have to hold a special meeting. You're deciding whether you're February 2nd meeting. So it's not like, so I think if you would just kind of modify the meeting, Commissioner Mitnick, because yeah, it's not a special meeting, it's just a normal monthly meeting. That's already scheduled.
Okay, Commissioner Alim. Am I allowed to say your commissioner?
Yeah, regarding to like all of these task force and agendas and everything else, I did, however, request it to be part of the bylaws, and um, and I'm not quite sure if I'm able to still participate, even though that I have vocally requested to be part of the retreat. But would I be also included into the bylaws as well, since I have a very interest into the whole bylaws of the commission?
Are you on that ad hoc committee for the bylaws and policy?
I just know that our last meeting that I voiced myself into getting involved in that task, but I haven't
Okay.
had any participation or been able to get included to anything at all. So it's just kind of reaching out and haven't gotten any response really.
Right. We'll need to make sure that you're a part of that bylaws and policy committee or ad hoc committee. And I'm hoping that by the 4th that you are confirmed. I'm staring at Meredith Square. I'm hoping that you're confirmed by then, so that in the interim, we can ensure that you're
No.
part of.
No, I appreciate that. It is because one of the things that I really want to get involved is that because I wasn't aware that there was a conversation about holding the co-chair and chair. I am hoping that in some ways that that I could voice myself in hoping that I could take on a role or seeing myself as a leader position in the sense of co-chair or being able to kind of take on a bigger role since as a previous person who had a little experience in it, and I feel that it's a role that I wanted to voice myself into. And I
Yes,
hope that my voice doesn't get lost in it.
completely understood.
I'm gonna call the
Thank you.
question. I'm gonna call the question.
And so we did have one person move to hold I guess, to keep the meeting on February 2nd. Does anyone second that?
Commissioner Mitnick, did you move, or I can move?
I think
Yeah,
Commissioner Mitnick moved.
it doesn't matter. I just want us to hold on the second and also want to be sensitive. We have other agenda items tonight. Thanks.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
second that.
Any second? Okay.
Second, Brianna.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor? All against? We
I'm
have
against.
abstained. Okay.
It's only one.
Yep, in favor.
The rest abstaining or?
They're not confirmed.
That's everyone.
So, passes 2-1.
Yeah, so
It passes with 2? Okay.
well, it has to pass with 3. 3 is core, 3 is the quorum. Did we have 3 votes?
Point of information,
So, sorry, go ahead.
I believe we had 3 votes and it was 2-1 vote.
Yeah. Yes, so we had 2 in favor, 1 opposed. And Commissioner Quander?
So, out of those of us, excuse me, sorry. So, out of those of us here that are confirmed, there are 3 total. Are you saying, Meredith, we need all 3 of us? Or I thought we would just need the majority out of who's here, which would be 2.
You know, I believe that you need the majority of confirmed commissioners.
Yeah.
But why don't I circle back on this? Because I think, you know, the meeting is scheduled, it's already there. So, yeah, let me circle back on this, because I thought that it needed to be 3 of the 5 to pass. I believe, that's my understanding of quorum. But
That was mine
obviously
too.
2 are not here. So let me double check on that. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that.
And just quickly, I want to acknowledge the resignation of our interim co-chair, and that was our Commissioner Bennett. And also, of course, the reminder for the retreat. The retreat is where we're going to vote for our new co-chairs, and hopefully there are more confirmations so that we can select from a slate of candidates that are interested in serving as co-chair. And it is 7:27. So I know that we need to move into executive session now. I'm sorry,
Objection.
the time for public comment is over, so I can only, although hands are raised, I can only call on Commissioner Mitnick.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I was trying to amend the agenda with in the beginning. I am objecting to the executive session. Per our bylaws and Robert's rules in the OPMA, we actually have to vote to go into executive session, and a vote was never made. And I also want this body and members of the public who are here to know that in our last meeting, we voted to publicly discuss the amicus brief at our next meeting. And that was actually approved in that meeting, and it was not reflected in this agenda. which again is why I was actually trying to amend the agenda. And again, this is no slight on any one commissioner, any specific member of city staff. The people I have an issue with at the city attorney's office, and that'll come in a second. But we have not voted to go into executive session. This is undemocratic. As I mentioned, there have already been semi-threats, I believe, levied by the city attorney's office. So I am amending this agenda item and putting a motion for a public discussion, because otherwise we would be violating state OPMA law and actually exposing us as commissioners to litigation as a result of that and fines. And I think it's really important that we're transparent with the public and with each other of what is going on here. And I'm objecting to an executive session and motioning to amend the agenda for a public discussion. We can have it with everyone involved, but the executive session is something that I'm deeply uncomfortable with. And city attorney's office have something to say to me as a commissioner, they can say it publicly, because I am not interested in doing backroom deals with these people.
This is Gary Smith with the City Attorney's Office. It is not required to vote to proceed to executive session. The presiding officer can call an executive session, and that is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
And I think with the agenda, as Meredith mentioned, the agenda is normally determined, I guess, ahead of time by the chairs or the co-chairs. We've known about the agenda for a while, so amending it, now we're a little behind time, and I know it's 7:25. We're going into executive session. That's what's on the agenda, and we've covered everything. So I think we have to go into executive session. So am I missing something?
And so the proper procedure would be for the presiding officer to call the executive session, state the purpose. Here is to receive legal advice.
I called a question. I made a motion with all due respect. I called a question. We have to
And to
vote.
state the time of the executive session.
Okay, so I guess I'm calling the executive session. We will be discussing with legal counsel representing agency litigation or potential litigation. This is something that was on our agenda, so I'm closing the meeting and moving into executive session.
Per Robert's rules, like in OPMA, I made a motion, and it's fine if you want to call us into executive session, but we first have to vote.
Okay, who seconds the motion then? I mean, is there someone that seconds this motion?
Can we have executive session and also have a public conversation in whatever way we can about the amicus status? I mean, this is part of the reason why I thought we should keep the February 2nd meeting.
But I think we need to hear what they have to say in terms of advising. As I've called it, we're going into executive session now. That didn't sound like a second, and we would need 3 confirmed. So I'd like to move, or let's move into executive session so we can find out.
Meredith, did you get, I'm sorry, Tricia, did you get clarification on the quorum needs? And if we're going, that's fine, but was just wondering about that. So at this point, I'm just gonna abstain, so. Well, I guess we don't even get there yet.
So let's move into executive session now. Thank you to the public for attending, and yeah, let's move and find out.
Point of
Thank
information.
you, everyone.
So I'm gonna go ahead and move us into a breakout session. We will return to the main room to adjourn after the executive session.
This is a violation of the OPMA, and I will be suing.
Okay.
Point of information for the city. I personally feel under the threat of litigation at the moment, so I'd like to ask if I could bring legal counsel into the executive session.
The commission is represented by the city attorney's office, not by outside attorneys. An outside attorney would not have a privileged relationship with the commission and should not attend an executive session.
Can you cite legally where that is pertinent?
The attorney-client privilege?
No, where I can't bring any outside counsel, because as far as I know, I never actually opted into having you represent me, and I feel a threat of litigation, so I'd like to bring in an attorney pro se.
An
At
outside
this point,
attorney would not be
I'm not asking, I'm demanding.
It would not be appropriate to bring an attorney who does not have an attorney-client privilege relationship with the commissioners into executive session.
So, not appropriate doesn't mean it's not allowed. Is it illegal or is it not appropriate?
The conversations would not be privileged.
Okay, but
We
again,
cannot provide privileged advice in an executive session with individuals who are not authorized to be in the executive session.
okay, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, is it illegal to bring pro se counsel? I'm not asking you about privileged or not. I'm not asking you about appropriate or not. I am asking you, is it illegal? And if it is, can you cite the RCW, ordinance, code, or law? That's all I'm asking you, really. It's a very simple question.
I've answered the question. We're now 10 minutes past the time for executive session.
If you answer the question, we'll move faster. And as an attorney, I would expect you to have an answer. And legally, the convener can invite anyone into the session. So again, you're just sitting here in silence. So I would like for now us to continue with a public discussion because you have not cited where it is illegal.
I've answered the question.
No, you have not. You have not stated. This is what I'm talking about. You people operate on intimidation, and then when we actually ask you with the facts, you have nothing. If you can actually state where it is illegal to bring pro se counsel into this executive session, then I will listen. I will comply. But until you can do that, we're just going to sit here for the next 25 minutes and continue that conversation. And it's very disrespectful to the public. And because again, also, we voted to have a public agenda item on this too. So yeah, I would appreciate if you could do that. And I asked you 2 weeks in a meeting. You never told me. You sent me an email. You never told me. We're sitting here. If you just cite it, we'll go into executive session. It's not that difficult. Legally, for an executive session, I also want to state you have to give us a reason as to why a public discussion on this item would be harmful. And you also cannot have an executive session just because an attorney would be there. Public discussion in litigation or legal risks is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. So if you can explain how a public discussion of this would present legal risks, then we'll go into executive session. So I'm asking you two things, Gary. One, what is illegal about bringing pro se counsel? And two, what is the reason why a public discussion on the amicus brief would be harmful? And if so, how would this result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency? And if you don't have an answer, it's okay for you to share with us why, but just sitting there in silence with your camera off. In fact, I will put my camera on so you can see me for this conversation. But yeah, I'm literally just asking you that. It's very simple.
It is. If someone who is not authorized attends the executive session, we cannot provide you privileged advice. It would not be privileged advice. If the rest of the commissioners would like to receive privileged advice, we are happy to provide that in executive session. I think this is now impeding the rest of the commission's ability to receive legal advice. That's my answer.
Okay, you didn't answer my questions. What is the privileged advice you're planning to give?
That's the point of an executive session, is to provide privileged advice, confidential advice.
Okay, I'm open to having that happen, but the motion that we made was to have a public discussion of amicus. But what is the nature of that advice? I think you have a right to share that, since you believe we should go into an executive session. Can you share why the nature of that advice cannot be shared with the public?
That is the nature of privileged advice. It is confidential advice. Other commissioners have the right to privileged advice. Whether or not you want to waive that privilege is your decision, not the rest of the commission.
Okay.
I'd
like to find out what's going on because I'm a newer commissioner. I'd like to know something. So is there somewhere that I can go and find out what this is? I mean, I was facilitating the meeting and I moved us into executive session so I can find out.
At
I like information.
Yes, at Commissioner Mitnick's request, we have provided a privileged memo that should have been distributed to the full commission explaining our advice. I would encourage the commissioners to review that memo.
Okay.
And we are here to answer questions in executive session about that memo.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Yeah, I have one quick question. Can you, Gary, explain the legal risk faced by the Seattle Human Rights Commission for pursuing an amicus brief? I'm not asking for the nature. I'm not asking for your fancy legal language. I am asking for the law. That is all I'm asking. And additionally, can you share with us, has litigation been threatened at any point to any commissioner over the past 9 to 10 months? Or do you believe litigation could be potentially commencing?
I don't have actual knowledge of that. I can't answer hypotheticals. I can tell you there's a reason that the attorney-client privilege exists, and that's to provide confidential advice. Otherwise, information that is discussed could be used against the city or commissioners in litigation.
Okay, because the reason why I just want everyone here to know, and I apologize if I'm coming across as harsh. I'm just very frustrated because you're supposed to be the lawyer, yet you have not referenced a single law throughout this entire conversation. And if we're to move into executive session, is actually a requirement for there to be actual litigation that has been threatened or that will be that will result in an adverse legal consequence. So you owe it to us as commissioners, if you're putting us into an executive session, to share that if you believe there's a reasonable belief of litigation. And I'm more than happy to share publicly what you shared with me in a meeting that was deeply concerning. But again, I'm asking you, you're not just offering advice for an executive session to legally happen. And I know you know the law, and you're probably banking on nobody else knowing the law. I'm
happy to answer your question if you give me a chance to respond. RCW 4230.110 under the OPMA, under the Open Public Meetings Act, allows a discussion in executive session to discuss actual or potential litigation or the legal risks of a proposed course of action. An executive session may be called by the presiding officer by stating the purpose of the executive session and the expected time that the executive session will last. This is all under RCW 4230, the Open Public Meetings Act.
Can you share those legal risks?
That is the exact attorney-client privileged information we intend to brief the commission, the full commission, on an executive session.
But you actually owe the public to explain the reason, and that is not attorney-client privileged information.
The commission is entitled to privileged information, not members of the public.
Okay, but the legal risk is not privileged information, and you have a responsibility legally to share that. Subsection 1I does not permit executive session just because an attorney from the city is there. You have to explain what the legal risk is, and you have to be able to explain that to the public. And also, your legal counsel is not a member of the public, too.
We're talking in circles here. I really don't find this as a productive discussion. I've cited the provisions of the OPMA. I've cited the exact provisions. I've explained that if the commission would like to receive privileged advice and the legal risks of a proposed course of action, that is why we're here. We've been waiting now 20 minutes for this executive session. If the full commission is not interested in receiving our advice, that's fine.
The last thing I'll say on this is that there has to be actual litigation in a belief opinion litigation where a public discussion would harm the agency. And you have a responsibility to articulate that as a reasoning before we go into executive session. Otherwise, you are putting us all at legal risk of violating the OPMA. And if that happens, we're the ones who are going to get in trouble for that. Obviously, you're going to have protection from, the people in government. So, you need to share the purpose under that basis is what you have an obligation to do. Otherwise, again, I'm going to bring pro se counsel into that because that is my right as not only a commissioner, but a member of the public.
RCW 42.30.110, subsection I, Roman numeral 3, states that an executive session is appropriate to discuss litigation or legal risks of a proposed action or current practice that the agency has identified when public disclosure of the litigation or legal risks is likely to result in adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. And I'm telling you that our privileged advice is privileged because disclosure of that advice would result in adverse effects to the city and potentially members of the commission. That's the whole purpose of an executive session. I really don't think that a continued argument here is helpful for anyone, members of the public or the rest of the commission who are waiting to to participate in our discussion.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want members of the public to participate in the discussion. And you're trying to prevent that by putting us into an executive session where the members of the public that you just mentioned would not be part of that. Again, I'm asking you to identify what are the legal risks, what is the legal consequence, and you have refused to do that, which is why I'm calling to question a vote for us to not go into executive session to move forward with a public discussion of filing an amicus brief. So I'm calling the question. Thanks.
I think I've answered that question multiple times. We were invited. You asked that we distribute our advice to the full commission. We were invited to attend tonight, almost 30 minutes ago, to answer questions and explain our advice. That's why we are here.
I never specifically invited you. And as you can recall in our meeting, which I'm happy to explain more about what went on in that meeting, I reiterated, and it's in writing in my email. If anyone wants to put up open records request me, or I'm happy to share those emails publicly. I asked for a public discussion. I called the question for that. You have not provided the legal risks. You've not provided any consequences. You also now are on public record violating the OPMA by calling this attorney-client privilege. I'm just calling the question. And again, I'm sorry for everyone for this back and forth. I'm just unbelievably frustrated with these closed-door intimidation tactics when we're just trying to do our due diligence and represent human rights in the city.
There's another commissioner that would like to speak, but as was stated, we've been waiting here for a very long time. I would like to just again have information, and this is precluding me finding out any information in which to share with the public, so I can discern or if I can. But Commissioner Alim?
All I just want to know is from perspective of like the litigations, do we as a commission or not a confirmed commission or any in particular, do we have something to be worried about? Or do I have something to be worried about? Or if there's any protection coming from the city if we had any litigations issues?
And that's a problem we can't even find out because we can't speak to them to get the information to find out if that's accurate.
I can tell you that an executive session is justified in this particular situation. I've advised about the particular procedure. The particular procedure has been followed. And if there was litigation under the OPMA, then the city would defend that litigation, including defending the individual commissioners, if the proper procedures are followed.
Okay.
So what is the question that's what is it that being questioned is what I'm confused about.
Can we, at least the confirmed commissioners that are here, can we at least be able to speak to find out what's going on? I'm just a little concerned because I know that I did call an end, and that was completely, I don't understand if I'm facilitating the meeting or not, but just this back and forth isn't really helping us find out any information. And I'm not doing this for theatrics for public. I'm doing this because all of us are interested in human rights in the cities. We aren't running for anything. We're public servants just trying to do our best. So is it possible for us those of us that would like to find out information, to meet with you, Mr. Smith, or?
Yeah, that is absolutely appropriate, and we are available to discuss with the commissioners individually. There's no reason this needs to take place at a full commission meeting. We can discuss with the commissioners individually. We have I believe we have an attorney-client privilege memo that was distributed to the full commission that explains our advice. And again, I would stress, that's our advice. We don't issue directives, threats. We advise and answer questions of a legal nature. And that was the reason that we distributed our memo, and that was the reason that we were invited to attend this executive session today.
Okay.
I would encourage the individual commissioners to review our memo, and if there are questions, we are happy to discuss with you individually.
Okay, I'll
There's
be
no reason for
contacting
this
you.
complication and back and forth about an executive session.
Okay, I apologize.
It's fine.
Reach out to you.
I just really quickly wanted to share the reason why I'm really concerned with going into executive session was because I have been threatened with potential litigation from the city attorney's office, which is why I feel uncomfortable going into meeting with these people, and they cannot claim that they are our attorney. And I actually asked this question. I said, if you are going to be claiming you're our attorneys, then you can go around and potentially pursue litigation against us. And I was told by Gary Smith, who is sitting here right now, that they would put up a quote firewall in their office. You cannot represent someone and then pursue litigation against that same person, which is why I feel very deeply uncomfortable going into a closed door with them. And, Gary Smith, since you refuse to state any RCW, I would like you to know RCW 42.30.110 in parentheses 1I specifically prohibits having an executive session just to consult with an attorney unless you can specifically state beforehand what is the adverse legal action and what are the legal risks. And
that is incorrect. You do not need to cite the potential consequences to go into executive session. That is the purpose for executive session. I feel like I've mentioned that a number of times now. I don't feel like this is productive. We
You
are
have
happy
mentioned
to
that.
discuss with the individual commissioners our legal advice. That is the only reason we are attending today. Commissioner Mitnick, that is not correct. You have never been threatened with litigation, and please refrain from those representations.
You can't tell me what to do, so please don't tell me what to do. I am telling you what I experienced and what has happened, and that's just the fact. And if you are claiming that you have not threatened with litigation, then that's actually great news, because then we can move forward and pursue an amicus brief without any threat of potential litigation from your office. So actually, that is really good news to hear.
I'm sorry, this public comment is closed.
That is Ariel Schneier. She's a colleague in my office.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Ariel,
Thank you.
if you have anything to add, I think at this point we will offer to discuss with the individual commissioners.
That was what I was going to say. I just wanted to reiterate that we're here to answer any questions individual commissioners may have. That's our role, and to answer your questions about our advice, and to have discussions. We are here to advise, and we're more than happy to have those discussions with you.
And how do we contact you? Because I've never. Or can you share that information with
Commission staff
Marta
has our
or-
contact information. We are happy to answer any questions that the individual commissioners may have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, as it appears that I guess we have missed our executive session. So I just want to touch bases again with Meredith, if you can find out about the quorum, because from my notes, it looks like it had to be 3 confirmed commissioners voting to pass motions and everything. So if you can confirm that, and I'll go back and make sure that I did confirm everything, or that I did third or move to confirm as well.
Can I
But
ask just real quick, Ariel, since you're still here, do you have an answer to this question? About, we need 3 of the 5, even though 2 aren't here, we still need quorum, correct, on a vote?
Quorum is a majority, typically a majority of the members. I'm sorry, if you're asking if you have quorum for this meeting?
Yeah, it still needs to be 3. We have 5 confirmed commissioners, 2 are not
Yes.
here. It doesn't mean we still need 3,
For quorum for this meeting, yes.
even though 2 aren't here,
Okay.
yeah, okay. So it's not those present, it's those confirmed, that's the numbers that we go off of.
For
Okay,
determining
thank you.
quorum for the meeting, yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay,
okay,
thank you.
thank you.
So-
Okay, so that
The only
means,
thing we had that wasn't unanimous was about canceling or keeping the February 2nd meeting.
and that vote was about keeping it, and that didn't pass, so.
Does that mean a motion has to be made to cancel it since it's already on the books? I don't know.
That is a good question. Like I
Wouldn't it
said, in
kind of
terms of,
violate the whole meeting? The whole agendas of by the bylaws of keeping the quarterly meetings excluding retreats, because it says that to have a quarterly meet or like a monthly meeting unless there's a restrictions to being able to cancel meetings.
Mhm. There's one meeting per year that you're allowed to miss, because I remember that was part of the email discussion we had about December's meeting, that we could possibly miss that one. So this would be the one meeting that would not be held, which would, of course, mean that you would need to still hold December's meeting. You wouldn't be able to skip any of the others.
Understandable.
I'm
Right.
not, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. I'm sorry, Meredith.
Oh, no, that's all right. I think I interrupted you. You're actually okay because you'd still be holding a public meeting in the month of February. So, so actually it wouldn't, you could still, you have to meet a minimum of 11 according to your bylaws. So, that's usually December. It could still be December because you still are having a February meeting with the retreat.
All right.
So,
Right. The retreat is still a public meeting.
yeah.
That's why 2 meetings, yeah, within 2 days. Commissioner Mitnick.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify. So if we can't then do the vote to keep the meeting, if the meeting's just there, then by that logic, we can't vote to cancel. So it'll just remain as a February 2nd business meeting, right? Or
I mean, right now it's on the calendar and you haven't voted to move it off of the calendar. So it's still technically happening.
And will the other commissioners be confirmed by then, do we think? I'm hoping.
I sure hope so. I'm pushing it, but
Okay.
I don't know. And I know, just to address, Commissioner Mitnick had asked this earlier, you know, there has been a delay because of the budget. So they didn't do any confirmation meetings for commissioners during the budget cycle. And so now they're catching up. So we are hoping to get everybody on the January meeting. So we'll see. I don't know though. It would be a crunch to get everybody confirmed by February 4th. Because not only it needs to go to 2 places. It needs to go to the I always forget, the Neighborhood Education, Civil Rights and Culture Subcommittee for City Council. It goes there, they approve, then that goes to the full City Council to vote. So it's a 2-step process we still have to do.
Understood. Okay, well, it looks like we're actually out of time because the meeting's supposed to end at 7:55. Sorry about the executive issue, but thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for Commissioner Quander for being so great with timekeeping as well. And I do appreciate the beginning of the meeting with having people sign in. So that was a great idea. Thank you. And I guess that means we will see everyone on February 2nd, as well as February 4th. I'll be reaching out to the people to help with the planning for the retreat. And as we'll be developing the agenda, although we will take into consideration what was said regarding there needing to be a chair, or co-chairs. The co-chairs are slated for election at the retreat. So that will be on the 4th of February. Okay, and no voting via email. So thank you. Thank you to the public as well. So I will adjourn the meeting now. Or what? Someone should move to adjourn the meeting. Commissioner Mitnick?
I move to adjourn, and thank you so much, Commissioner Diamond, for chairing the meeting.
Thank you.
Second, thank you.
I
Thank you.
also
Good night, everyone.
so moved. Thank you.